There's a room somewhere in Nigeria, Ebonyi State. In that room, there's an old wooden chair, worn at the edges, the kind of chair that has held the weight of history. Around it, artifacts, pieces of a life, a man's life, the ruler's life, a father's life, and every day his son walks past that room, not to mourn, but to remember, to make sure that the story does not end, but serves as a guide to heritage and posterity. That son is our guest today. But before we get to him, I want to talk to you, because as in Onyen Weteroji, Weterundo. But what happens when we stop bringing the kola? What happens when we forget the prayer that goes with it? What happens when our children don't even know what the kola means? I'll tell you what happens. We disappear, not all at once, but quietly, gradually, one generation at a time, one household at a time, one unanswered question at a time. This show is a conversation, but today it's also an accountability session for all of us, for our families, for our communities, for all of us to remember what it means to be Igbo and to live comfortably in our culture, past and present. So for this episode, we traveled to Afia in Ebonyi State to visit and have a conversation with our guest, who has built a career studying how people and organizations behave. He has stood in lecture halls in Britain and boardrooms across Nigeria. He has preserved his father's memory with his own hands. And he runs a foundation committed to making sure that what we inherit does not just become a museum exhibit, but remains part of our identity. He is a professor, a prince of his year. He is a cultural steward. And today, he is going to challenge us. Welcome to Libation. Pour yours, for we're about to have a conversation that is long overdue.
Odogu.
Hey!
Odogu.
Hey!
Odogu.
My prince.
Eh? Odogu. The prince.
How are you?
It's
good to see you, Dalo. Nah, thank you.
Otego.
To guy in our plan. So,
Otego.
thank you so much.
Bega Amaka. Omakali nkeru.
Bega Amaka.
Omakali nkeru.
I think na bosin ga bia ba nwe he ngeji we na.
Yo nyanse ifi eji na erike. Ya mmo ịma na mụ nwa bụ nwatakịrị nke bụ Odogwu nwa ụlọ. This is my father. It was 1945. Mgbe ọ ka bụ yes, just few years before he joined Eastern Council of Chiefs, 1958. So Oselunka. Then, in fact, you can see the evidence. Eastern Nigeria Parliamentary Debate, Eastern House of Chiefs, official report. So when you look here, you'll see for Chief the Honorable Ogba Abakaliki. This is third session, 1961 to 1962, first meeting. So that's, we picked this from the National Archives. Then Nkebu Oyonne, my mother, she's from the Ata-Igala royal family. She's Ata-Igala. So the Igala kingdom, the Ata kingdom has Ata has 4 children. One is a female, the other 3 male. So, and I happen to come from one of the lineage dynasty. So, and then this is when she was buried. These are the royal princes. And these are our traditional wear. So these are the royal princes that came from the kingdom for her funeral in my father's compound. So back then, Nke bụ nwoke mgbe
dimkpa.
His
Royal Highness.
His Royal Highness.
Yeah.
This is during his coronation, 1940, December 1945. Then this one is 1974. This is the first Catholic priest from Abakaliki, the late Father, Reverend Father Echego, of blessed memory. So my dad, Ogba Ekirigwe, gifted him this beetle. I came back from England, and the man found me, came to the university. So he said he heard that one of Ogba Ekirigwe's sons came back from abroad, and he thought of what to give me as a gift. And he said he wanted to show me something, just a way of appreciating what my dad did, and brought out this picture, but on the condition that I was to return the original, to him. So that's 1974. Imagine gifting somebody beetle at that time. This is also part of his coronation, and these as well. In fact, at the other side of the house, there's a picture where he has these 6 wives, early 6 wives, 3 this side, 3 this side, and 6 of them were pregnant at the same time. He had 35.
35
yes,
wives?
Yes, 5 concubines and 30 women. And
so I've not even started?
No. Somebody say, what am I doing with 1? And say, I don't know 100. No, okay, now. Yes, my darling.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And, so in fact, this here, this is his seat. Unfortunately, I turn upside down. So normally what you do is you lift here. Foam. Nordiana. Yes, Nordiana. This is 78 years old.
No.
So everything.
This is history.
It was in the 70s that he had these nails, just to keep it. But when you look at it, you can see joinery is made of wood. Pure wooden joinery, and so heavy. That's his seat. In fact, on a ton or a ton, you got for draw, now this side.
Okay.
Yeah. So he sits and enjoy himself.
Wow, this is history.
Yeah, and then another fascinating story of him also is this is also his cupboard. And cupboard called drawer now. So, and each of the compartment, you can also see wood. You made the joint, you can see wood.
The craftsmanship actually is
just something else. It is nearly 100 years old, untouched as he left it. The only thing we did was that we had to use chemical to clean up the thing, because the Eba Park area, the amount of termite and other things, so we had to restore it, and we're so grateful that we're able to restore it. And by the way, this is his original staff. In fact, the amazing thing about this staff is that you can see this is as old. This staff was given to him. He bought it at his first coronation, 1945. And normally, Eba Abawago. But ideally, when you, in its prime, when you pull this one would also tilt. It will tilt this way and push inwards, so that if you're talking and he's tired, you can
sit on it.
Simply sit, and this one balances, and so this gets into the ground, and it gives it its balance. And these are some of his.
I like how you've
deliberately
preserved
we had
the memory.
This is the one I love most. You see, the man loves Ife Umuoke I like. So here is his original comb. You can see it's written Alumako. Here is for opening of wine and drinks, and this is the comb itself. We couldn't.
A man must be prepared at all times.
At all times. And this he had before he got married. So he was using this way as a young man, cruising life and other things. And this, you can see the camera. I don't know what this is called, but we found this and you can see.
All part of his.
I think this is certainly German make. This is the box that came with it. You can see how old it is. And what we're trying to do is just do all we can to preserve it.
It's very important.
Yeah, and here is Efele. This Ojukwu ate from this. Azikiwe ate from this. Michael Opara and a couple of other persons ate from, because my stepmother, who is still alive, used to
Your stepmother is still alive?
Yeah. I have 3 of them that are still alive. Well, they're all in their late 90s. One is 100 plus. One is 100 plus. The other 2, 2 it's 100 plus. The other one is in her late 90s, 98.
Wow.
So that one, Nebili, we call him Nebili, Ebune. That my brother is late. They passed on about 6 months ago. His mother makes osoji for him. She's the only one that makes osoji for him when there are visitors, guests. So they use this to serve the osoji.
This is an interesting piece. Thank you.
Thanks. And sometimes when I'm holding these things, I'm afraid, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
And this one.
This is something else.
Something as heavy as you can imagine. This what do you call that? Is it megaphone? The one that looks like
Okay, I think I know this. It's a recorder.
Record like something phone that has that one. This one. You can see
quarter-inch.
Whatever it is, but we've kept it.
It's a quarter-inch recorder.
Yeah, and slightly you can see the front part. Let's say when I checked, I think this should be around made in the 50s, 60s. I can't remember now. But the camera itself is certainly 30-something, 40-something.
Yeah, 1940s.
Yeah.
But this was used from like the even
70s.
No, it was some of them were used up to 70s.
Okay.
But the technology for this came from like the 1930s, 40s, all the way up.
Yeah. So I think I need to make out time to research on this and know this very module when they were created. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Ochen, I'm happy you came visiting.
Thank you very much. We said,
and this is also his stool. We call it okboshi. And you can see the artwork, the carving. We've maintained it in its state. I'm reluctant polishing it. I just want them to be
in this state.
Because when you polish, it will look more beautiful and more preserved, but then the age and the aging and other things. When I see this, they send that message that the soul of a man doesn't die.
No. Especially when that person is significant, has done some great things in its community.
Exactly.
And of course has offspring like yourself, people who are dedicated, who dedicated themselves to keeping that memory alive. It's very inspiring.
Doug, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
I am any fan Solibo. Oji abia. Oji abia. Ema na ebu no nweze. So oji ugo oji kanyaru.
Ezigbo oji o. Imana anasị na onye wetelu ọjị wetelu ndụ.
O meleme ise.
Anasịkwa na otu esi nye m ọjị a. M ga-ebunyekwa gị ọjị maka anasị na ọjị eze ji eze n'aka.
O meleme. Nna ahụ mụrụ ọfụma. Nna ahụ mụrụ. Ewo. Ndị ọcha achọrọ ka anyị gbalụ mana anyị ga-adị. Eke, Oye, Afọ, Nkwọ. Mana nwa eze, a na-enye nwa eze ọjị, a na-enye ya ọfụma ka adịshọn na ọ dị ka o kwesịrị.
Mana ọjị ya maka
mgbe ọjị ya gbara ọjị ugo, ọjị ugo. Ụzọ echekwala unu na-ejekwa ọfụma. Ndị polisi edistọbụ
anyị nwere nsogbu. Anyị gara ọfụma, anyị bịara ọfụma.
Anyị akpọkunu a sị na ọjị ara anụ n'ihe ọzọ abụrụ asụsụ Igbo. Chineke ụfọdụ na-akpọ Chukwu, Mgboko, gobe isi kpatara nku, ekpere alego, ma beko ọgba ekirigwe, nna m, ọtụchi ngele, ọchịha nwahe nne ya, osimiri ọba, ekpere alego, ekpere egbalobu, ebe onojua le nwunye m shilefọ nne ọzọ shie mkpụkpọ ọzọ abịa. Chineke gụbụ onye kere mmadụ ka eli ka ali ka ihe ofu n'ọlịa ke mkpụkpọ ofu bịa. Onye na-achị ogo bịa ekala ofu beno nwunye m achọrọ m bịa ọchọta mfe ibe gbasara ihe anyị. Ọ ga-adịrị ure ọ dụrụ nna ụlọ nwunye ure lawa ofu ọ dụrụ ga yire bịa ọ dụrụ mgbe ndị ere o mgbe ndị ebe agbo Ike-Elechi Ogba ekirigwe akpaleri ọgụ ọ dụrụ anyị osimiri ọ dụrụ anyị re ọ dụrụ mkpụkpọ anyị re ọ dụrụ ala Igbo re o ala Anambra, ala Imo, ala Ebonyi, ala Aja, ala Enugu. Onwe Igbo kọbụlụ nna ọ ga-adụrụ unu re, Eke ọ ga-adụrụ unu re, Orie ọ ga-adụrụ unu re, Afọ ọ ga-adụrụ unu re, Nkwọ ọ ga-adụrụ onye shi na-ebudute onye obebu. Ndị Igbo si ọ bịara igbu mgbu onwe ya. Onye Igbo jere ebe o je ka ọ kpata nri. Chineke ihe echebeba ofu ọ ga-adịla anyị mma, ọ dịla ụmụ anyị mma, ọ dịla omenala anyị mma. Ndị si na omenala Igbo ama ndị Chineke ga-enwe a si egbe bee ugo bee nke si ibi ebene nkukwu anya. Anyị asịrị onye zika anyị ebe anyị ebe maka ozike anyị ebe anyị ebe ozike anyị n'udu mmụọ anyị ana anyị ebi anyị adị ụmụaka anyị ya adị fewele omenala anyị chebe n'ihu. Ọ ya adịla anyị mma, ọ ya adịla mma ụtụtụ ehihie anyasị, ọ ya adịla anyị mma. Chineke ada asịghị ụtọ ọjị na ọgị nwe ọjị nwere ife niile gonye gbara ibie tọdụrụ odogwu
daalụ
na ọjị nke nkwe nke ihe nyeghachi m nke.
Nke a.
Nke gbajiri agbaji ihe nyeghachi. Ọ ka ọ dị mma ọtọ Igbo. Nke bụ nke eji ana n'ụlọ nke ụlọ welu nke ụlọ.
Nke a ga-eso mgbe na.
Nke bụ nke Afia welu nke Afia.
A ga-ewekwute m.
Onwe onye Igbo ọzọ kedu nna bịa were ọjị. Ịma na Igbo na-atọ Igbo na-asọpụrụ ọjị. Hausa na-atị ya, Yoruba na-akị ya, ngwa were ofu. Ọ ya adịrị mma. Ne ndị bịa nụnụ bịa ka ịmụta omenala. Ihe were nke Igbo egbulisie ya kelekele. Onwe nwaanyị ị chọrọ inye, ijiri aka weli ya nye nwaanyị. Nwaanyị adịghị ewelu ọjị na ihe ịghọta ife ngwalụ. Ịgbadie ya, iwelie n'aka, inye nwaanyị. Ọ bụ na nwoke ya were aka ya were.
Ghọtakwa.
Ka emezuo nye etu o kwesịrị. Nke bụ jin m mere na be m.
Anụgo m akụkọ jin gị.
Eji m aka m mee ya. Jin abụrụ nke ndị ọcha. Ada eji mmanya ndị ọcha ekpe ekpere. Inwero nke ime na be gị. Inwero nke emerụ site na omenala Igbo bụ iwelu nkwụ enu na-akpọkwa ya nkwụ ọcha. Ịgbanye ya n'ite sinye n'ọkụ kpuchie nye mee oghele ebe ndị ọcha si na steam anwụrụ tinye ya esi na-apụta. Nke a bụ ezie. Nye aka ya eji gaa ọfọ imesịrị anụ ọjị.
Ndị nwanyị. Nke ezigbo ya.
Ọ na-alụ. Chọọ
nsoro gị wee. Nsoro gị wee mee.
Adị m enyekwa nna akpụ ya ihe onye metere. Ji aka gbanye onwe gị nke ịchọ ịhụ. Ịṅụzie ogbuwe gị aka m adịrị. Ma mgbu ọgwụ. Ọgwụ. O nwere
o metụta m.
Na our family anyị nwere ngalaba ekele ọrụ eke. O nwere ụfọdụ n'ime anyị a na-enye ha eweta gị. O nwere ụfọdụ n'ime anyị a na-enye onyinye efu ụzọ. O nwere mgbọrọgwụ ọ na-enwe efe mmezikosi gị na be m ebe bụ iwetie ma nke na-enye aka maka onye nwoke ife na ara akwụ ọfụma ma onye onwe nke ndị oyibo si na palpitation. O nwere nwa my brother small girl ka ama my great grandmother pass ya to my grandmother, my brother pass ya to that my sister-in-law, that my late sister-in-law pass ya to one of my niece. Small girl. Ọbịa, o nwere ebe o nwere ọfịa dị n'azụ be anyị. Ọ katia, o nwere some leaves, o nweta akwụkwọ ndị afọ, nwere ka o si eyi ya n'ọkụ. Jilu etin pot, oye nye, o weta ejune. Those small spacey type of ejune. Eghe nya, kwụọ nya, kwọkọta ọnụ, tinye mmanụ na ya. Onye ghe lacha, o mewe ebe, tee gị ya n'obi 3 times. Palpitation agụ. Straight. Isikwa ebe nziko ga another compound, one of my brother. Nke bụ poison. Normal poison ọ na-enye gị iji kuru mmiri ebe afọ nwa. Ikuru ya n'ite na ebe a nwa, ịgbọsịsị anya. Onyinye. Onyinye.
Daalụ bega amaka.
Nna bịa gbata mmanya. ka imezuo omenala. Ọ na yiri akwa ndị Igbo. Yiri akwa ndị Igbo. Nọdị anyị ebe. Nọdị anyị ebe. Bulu nke debe na ụkwụ. N'ala Igbo, oyi bụ calabash. Ya ka eji agba mmanya. O nwere nke na-enwe ọnụ pịpụta apịpụta. Ngwa. Nke bụ opi mmanya my father used.
I have a special one.
Yeah. Ọ fụgo ụwa. Ọ fụgo mmụọ fụ mmadụ.
Kelechi, ka abụrụ na ị ga-etinye nụ m nọ.
N'obe na be agwa m ya, na be anyị. Nwa eze inye mmanya, inye nke, inye the second one. Maka inyezie den, inyezie ị na-aba amụta. Nwa gbanyela odogwu. Ama m ihe ị kwesịrị ime.
No, okay. Jide. Thank you. Ịgbafukwa na mmanya ahụ.
Na amakwa m, arụ na amakwa ya ama. Jee welu ofu n'ime ebe m. Welu ofu. Nwa jee gbanyela onwe gị, jee nọdị ana ka ịṅụ. A sị nwata kwọcha aka, osoro ọgaranya lie nri. Ka ife ọzọ ekwu, onye efe eze elu enyi. Ọnya.
Daalụ, Prof.
Odogwu nna. Ịma na ọbụna ndị ọcha fasigo cheers. Ka evi na-echi ya?
Mmanya amaka.
Ọnya. O nwere nwoke na ndị ọkụ mmanya bi somewhere far from my place. Ọ na-abụ nchọrọ anụ ihe na zie nya. O wetelu m.
Mmanya amaka.
O wetelu m ya.
Prof.
Odogwu.
Dalu, thank you.
Email
Ofuma, allowing us to come into your home. Such a beautiful, and thank you for the tour of the space and sharing the history of your father. I just thought to begin this conversation because for us at Libation, and this show is really about conversations around Igbo culture. I've always been very particular, also because from my own point of view, as growing up, I grew up as a child challenged. I wasn't fully aware of my culture, So it's only in the last couple of years that I've, and I'm kind of realizing the things that I've missed. And every time I sit with someone like yourself who, is immersed in the culture, I feel, I won't say I feel lost, but I actually enjoy the, finding myself back again, and allowing me to come to your home and have this conversation is such a privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I want to start our conversation, really, on this episode of Libation, because this is a special one. This is the new season. You're actually the first Guess we're getting back as we're restarting Libation. My producers have been on my head, like, oh, you know, Chief, you need to sit down and let's record. So, you're not only the son of a legend. His Royal Majesty Igwe is someone who the legends are. You know, he's a legend, but there are legends around his legend. But you're also a very distinguished academic. You're Professor of Marketing. You are the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Ebonyi State University. And you're one of the youngest persons, to, not just in Igbo land, but even globally, to have, you know, become a professor at such a very young age. Because it's one thing to get a PhD. People talk about PhD. Anybody can get a PhD, but to get become a, you know, a tenured professor is something else. I want to ask. You come from this legacy. Was there like? Is it because you're the son of this great man that pushes you, or what is in it of your history that has sort of made you who you are today?
Well, first I want to appreciate you for the kind words, and for me, to be honest with you, I would still love to welcome you a billion times, because Ani was in Ubi Mad na Funa Mo. So the first time we met, there was that strong connection. In fact, from the same family. I said, that then, see, I'm just meeting you for the first time. I said, but the connection isn't here now. No be mad enough for now. So, to be very honest, for whatever reason, if we are looking at it from Igbo anthropology, so I feel honored to host you and your team, and for me, I think this is just the beginning. True. Because I would also want to welcome you in the university community, because part of the things that we lack is our Igbo children no longer understand what our tradition and culture is. And this is a setting that I'm already seeing, that we make it compulsory for all students of the university. At least we have a large hall that accommodates about 750 students, where imagine them sit and watch us talk about Igbo culture and tradition for 1-2 hours. That would be a very great thing.
That would be something that I will speak to my producers.
Yes, please.
I think it's something that we can definitely.
Please. In fact, as the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, I've already approved it. So, yes, and I'll make that compulsory for key faculties that are supposed to, especially Faculty of Social Science and Humanities and Management Sciences, where these courses are very fundamental: sociology, anthropology, philosophy, and the rest of that, and Igbo. So I think we can take that conversation forward. But back to what you asked. To be honest with you, yes, coming from a father who was not just a royalty, but also was a custodian of tradition, and then looking at him and the stories around him, and the way he upheld our culture and value, and was never against any other culture. He wasn't anti-Western culture. He wasn't anti-Christianity to any religion, no, but he upheld his own culture. In fact, he brought Methodists, he allowed Methodists to thrive here. Well, he still upheld the culture. His own father, Ekpori, the great Ekpori, was also a custodian of our culture. And Ekpori's father, Egbalobu, was one of the greatest, today church people call it miracle worker, but obono Igbo, asige no magic, asige no witchcraft, but obono ndiocha of miracle worker. He was a very great miracle worker, a herbalist, a mystic. Imagine somebody that before of a jog in those years, ebune, you know ebune, big ebune, weluodo, elili, ordinary eli trade, not a trade. Just trade eji akwa akwa. Ke ebine n'onu, ke di enukwu osisi. Ebine amampu. And before the war starts, all the warriors will jump over that. You jump over, then you can't go to war because it means you won't come back. You know. Then you talk of Ebe, and then Azam. These are my ancestors.
So you can
count up to 10 generations at least. Yeah, 8 to 10 generations of my ancestors, and not just count because that's it. I'll show you where they lived, physical places where they lived, and stories of the things they did. For instance, Ekpori himself, I can take you and drive you just 30 minutes from here to the oldest man in the whole of Asia, this kingdom, and possibly the whole of Ohuku local government, one of the 3 oldest persons. The man is so old now. Anokata, he will lost track with you, and he'll be talking with people that you're not seeing, and then he will return back to your conversation with him. The man knew Ogba Ekiriwe when Ogba Ekiriwe wasn't married, and that is the grandson of Ekpori, my grandfather. So that young man came to meet my grandfather Ekpori in our ancestral home, just beside the palace. You have to walk like 10, 15 minutes we call it Ndogo. When you get there, you see the relics, is that what it's called? The leftover, the foundation of the building where he lived, which we want to restore now. The young man came to visit him. Now, this happened around 1930, between 1934 to 1939, because Ogba Ekiriwe, 1920 something, because Ogba Ekiriwe was married at 30s. So he came to visit him to drop gifts, because in our tradition, our New Yam festival. So my auntie, my great auntie, who is Ogba Ekiriwe's elder sister, prepared food with new yam, pounded yam, prepared food with bushmeat, and sent her son to take it to the grandfather Ekpori. So he came playing around there. He climbed a tree, fell from that tree, and broke his bone, and the waist joint dislocated. The young man was shouting. Ekpori, my grandfather, came out and saw the young man scream, Tasho, Tasho, Tasho Lebo, in a native dialect. And then he went and picked native fowl egg. There were no, what do you call it, this modern chicken now, yeah. And a broiler, Fadro, or Igbo, and took it, went to under the tree, Ogbu tree. There is a pot, an earthen pot there. He rolled it on the pot 3 times, rolled it on the young man's waist 3 times, threw the egg away, walked into his room. Just after a few minutes, the young man stood up. That young man is alive. He's not Ihakolako. He's still alive today. That's the old man I'm telling you about. So when you have such history, and growing up reading about Western stories, of William Shakespeare with all his stories, Ulysses with all his stories, so many Western writers, and they talk about how great they are, great heroes, and you say, hold on. In my own gene, in my own blood, we have people that were great.
So for me here, and that's the interesting thing where point of this conversation is that knowing this, knowing your history,
yes,
it didn't place it gave you sort of like the energy, the strength
Absolutely.
to
You're
to
using the right
accomplish.
word. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then so we asking nnewu na ataba nwe ya na-eni ya n'ọnụ. A child learns from his
Yeah.
own parents. So if you have, for instance, in the Bible, you have Abraham who went with few of his servants and fought and destroyed 5 kings. You have King David who took rebels and fought nations and defeated them before he became king. Hold on. Also, here,
It's part of your DNA.
yes,
Yeah.
we have stories of real communities that fought wars and they defeated. We defeated them.
But that's so. This comes to because coming in here, you still have even the stereo from and things your father used.
These are evidences.
Yeah. But the question is, and this is what I think a lot of people are faced with now. We're in this rapid move to modernize, to leave like Western world, be a Kandiocha and all of this kind of thing. And so, to a large extent, many Igbo people, you go to the villages and towns, Ikoro, and all the drums that we use in the town square have been abandoned, destroyed, but you have somehow been able to preserve this.
Yeah.
How much did it take of you? Was it a deliberate thing?
There are spiritual dimension to it, and the physical dimension. Yes, it was intentional. It was intentional because I've traveled to, 48 countries. My wife corrected me last time. That is 51 countries actually, because the one that I traveled recently. And of that, only 4 or 5 African countries. I've traveled to almost all the Western countries and been to other parts of the world. And one of the things that I see there is a subtle, intentional decision to preserve their own culture and their own identity. The Western education have this Western culture and educational system. They kept it, they preserved it. And as they travel to colonize nations, they almost force you to adopt that. Every nation that Britain or any other part of the Western world colonized, they gave them 4 major gifts. Governance system that is suitable, that is their own governance system, define the way they want it, rearrange the way they want it, and they tell you, for instance, they're giving us democracy. They say democracy is government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Hold on. What they call democracy and what they define on paper, is it really what they practice as democracy? Then economic structure. The economic system they gave us is not the same economic system that they practice. Where is, for instance, IMF? Did they really design the same economic policy for them and for us? No. Then you have religion. In fact, you have education first. And then their educational system structured for themselves is different from ours. If you go to West, they still make effort to prioritize apprenticeship system, which historically was learned from Africa. Now you can see now, they push that forward, but what do we have? A barbarian, that is German, old German structure of learning, where you have a classroom, 4 walls, and all you do is you face the blackboard or whiteboard, whatever you call it, and then they just assimilate whatever you're told with no room to even question anything. Whereas our own educational system, where you follow your father, who is now your ancestor, if your father is gone, and you follow him, carry his stool. When you get to the village square or wherever, you keep the stool for him. He sits down, you sit by his side on the ground, you observe and learn through observation, through hearing, and through physical actions. And so we abandon all of that.
This conversation, every time, from the first day I met you, just the broadness of your experience and knowledge. For a man still in your youth, in your prime, it's just amazing. But funny thing, the other day I went to see Igbo from my local government, and I went to see my dad, and one of my father's friends, No. Oh, you did them next time. You have in this neighborhood. I mean, the palace is just behind us here. Have you faced any resistance from family distance in terms of your ability, your attempt to try and keep this thing? Because some people will say, "Oh, I want to build a modern building. I want to knock down this thing." Have you faced such resistance?
Even till day before yesterday, it's a very reoccurring thing. For instance, yesterday, some people came here to handle cases, a dispute between a man and her wife. They are aged now, and then also two brothers who one of them was busy showing his children properties, land that doesn't belong to them, and claim is their own fathers. And then you have my own brothers, some of my brothers that are into evangelical Christianity, Pentecostalism, and spirituality, different arms of Christian religion. And for instance, I know no men and okay, also great, also is like, you know, prince, great prince. Then you have also, and then you have the not commoners, just normal persons. And when it's a also like Ogba, you have almost 5 stages of his burial. The last one is equals. Equals also is the final stage where the person is enthroned in the spiritual world and takes his place as a great ancestor. Not just an ancestor, but a great ancestor. And that process is very, very complicated, very technical, but just it tells you how advanced. And that our people were. They were ordered in terms of the things. Because it brings me, sorry to say, but I must bring this in because it just occurred to me now after having this conversation. I'd asked my father was on the same show like a year ago and interviewed him. It was a delight of my career to have you interview your father. You know, I don't even know why he agreed or what we did to convince him. I thank my producers for that. But there's something I said to him or I asked him, and I don't know what's your take on that, because there's a gentleman in my village or in our hometown who had said he had made some money, and I think it was his mom that had passed, and so he had made some money now, and he wanted to equal exactly a fee and everything. And my father said to him, "You should not try it. No, na get people, the spirit will." And I was like, What do you mean? But he explained to me that there are processes, there are stages, there are things that you have to do. And one of them is that if you didn't bury your own father or your grandfather, you cannot now jump and sing again. You must do that person first. You see, in Igbo tradition, enwelu solo ejem ife. Na ka sị na nwata gbakalia ni oche ọhụnwa ndị oyibo si na you can't run more than your shadows. Enwelu procedures. So first of all, my father Ogba Ekirigwe kwalụ nne ya. After ka o mesi the first ịkwa nne ya ekpori, ọ na-akwa nne ya 2 times every year constantly thereafter. N'udu mmiri ya na ọkọchị. Every year until ọnwa. So my grandfather kwalụ nna nke Ogba Ekirigwe Egba Alobu. Egba kwalụ nna nke Alobu. Alobu kwa nna nke Ebe kwa nna nke Ezam. So all of them did the same thing. If they haven't, I won't even try to Ekwanam. But Ekwanam now, nwekwe procedure. First of all, Ebango is that you must marry, you must be a married man. That's the first port of call. And you must be a married man, but you must be a married man in a traditional way. Kita asị na ije na church na ime wedding ni go married. Because even the law of the land, Nigerian law, doesn't recognize church wedding. What it recognizes is customary wedding and court wedding. Ịkpọlụ nwaanyị n'uje n'ụlọ ụka eti hallelujah, ejikọ unu ọnụ. You're not married by law. Because the law acknowledges that by tradition, omenala nke Igbo bụ na etu anọ mkpọrọ ada nwanyị, mkpọlia nye man, si ngwa gị na ya bilu. That process involves exchange of dowry and other traditional rites. That means you are announcing in the world of the spirit and in the physical world, na ndị anugo. As it is in the heaven, so is on earth. In Afo heaven. In Afo heaven. Heaven means spirit. As is in heaven, so is on earth. So anything na-eme n'ụwa, ọ na-eme na eluigwe. So in our own tradition, you must marry in a traditional way. Then you're now qualified. First, ikwago nna gị ọkwado nna nke. Ọ bụ na nna gị akwaro nna ya, you must do for your grandfather first. Asị nwa akpata nya akwa nna ya na ọ bụrụ ọkpala gburu nna. So you do that first. The same thing in burial. If my mother is late, and also someone else is late, I cannot kill cow in the burial process for that person if I haven't done it for my mother. You have to do that first. So yes, all cases Igbo. Doesn't mean you're qualified to Ikwan. I'll give you an example in my place. So because of the nature of my father, the last stage of the Ikwozu is what we call Ogbaka. I'm not going to explain that here in a very layman's form because of the technicalities involved in it. But in those ancient days, that's the last thing you do. And today, we've replaced it with cow. You use cow instead of what you're supposed to use in those days. Yeah. Then you use cow as substitute. Immediately, you move into the Ikwozu itself. For you to Kwozu, belong to. These days I see people in the name wedding, traditional marriage. That is, what are you playing with? It's not fashion.
So are you saying that, no, bro, I mean, to quote you, that is not fashion, that is...
Of course,
implications?
It's Igbo fashion, of course. But what we're saying, there is a traditional meaning to it. In a chizu, before you went. What does it mean? If you're a man, as I am, what I'm going to do is to buy a horse and announce the day I got my dad. And what do? You go to Oboneke Afia bunu. Obuno oye Afia bunu. Obuno nkwoma afọ. Igbo nwere 4 market days. Eke oye afọ nkwo. Nke ọbụna bụ the major market day na bunu. Mbosi aviki yeje. Ikpodo the inya with the dance, traditional dance bunu. Nikanye bo penya. They will play it. You dress in your regalia with the horsetail of the person who is the last person to have done that, or any other horsetail, and go to the market. That's to announce that you're about to Ikwa Ozun Nage. It's a festival of its own. Once you're done with that, then you come back. You now fix the date of the Ikwozu. But the fixing of the date of Ikwozu, you must have informed your...
So to put it in perspective, there's a whole lot of process. So we're getting to the end of this segment, but this is a very interesting part of the conversation. And so we're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll pick up from this, because this is very, and I'm also going to ask you specifically around the influence of, you talked a little bit about it, the influence of Western culture, and especially religion, and how that may have influenced a few things. We'll talk about that, and then obviously I can't get away with it because this professor, this is a professor, Deputy Vice-Chancellor of University. It's a bit of a thing he said that I was like, said something about, is education a scam? And I was like, what? Professor of education saying this. So we'll be right back in a minute. welcome back to the new season of Libation. And this season, we're starting off with with someone who I met just like a week or two before this. And when I met this gentleman, I was like, nah, this is my brother. This is someone who I really admire. His ethic, his accomplishment, and we share. When I say a revelation in terms of how I find myself, I'm a student of culture, I love arts, and I love history. And when I visited him in his home, where we are shooting this special episode of Libation, I was just blown away by, his purposefulness around legacy, and legacy of his father, legacy of his family. This is a man that can count up to 10 generations, not count, name his ancestors up to the 10th generation. He's also an academic. He's a deputy vice-chancellor of the Ebonyi State University. He's a prince of his year in Ebonyi State. Prof.
Thank you.
It's good to be back.
Thank you. Thank you.
When we left off the previous segment, we talked about legacy, we talked about preservation, yeah. But there's a thread around. There's always this conflict around culture, religion, and so on. But your father, His Royal Majesty, was also someone who, despite the fact that he was steeped in our tradition, in the ways of life of as an Igbo man, was just someone who supported the church. Yeah. Walking in here, there's a huge photograph of him donating Volkswagen Beetle's car to the first parish in 1974.
Yes,
the first parish. Tell me about it.
So I came back from England in 2012 and moved into the university. I'm actually at Ebonyi State University not out of choice, but out of out of traditional and cultural obligation. Because I was, the last position I held at Newcastle Business School and Northumbria University was head of PhD program. So in 2012, I decided, look, let me do what the Jews call aliyah. Let me return home.
Come back.
And then coming back to the university, I recall my daughter, when they visited, she saw the old campus, the CAS campus, and she was like, Dad, what's that building? And that was the building of the Vice-Chancellor. I said, that's the Vice-Chancellor's office. And she was like, that looks like a stable. That's like a stable. And so you're asking yourself, what are you doing here? But for me, it's a moral and cultural traditional obligation. So my father, that man walked in, and they told me a reverend father wanted to see me. And I'm like, what? A reverend father coming to see me for what? I don't need prayers, and I'm not saying that prayers is not good. I believe strongly in prayer as well. It depends on what you call prayers, because any good thing you do to your fellow man, it's a prayer. So I said, okay, let him come in. And that man is called Reverend Father Echego, from Iji clan, a very popular family. The younger brother now is the chief of staff to the governor of Ebonyi State. So he walked in with that Catholic regalia and a very soft voice and gentle, true to its gentility. And he said, I heard that one of Ogba Ikirigwe, one of His Majesty Ogba Ikirigwe's son, came back from England, and he felt he should come and see him, and also in a way express his appreciation. There has a gift, something he wants to show me, not a gift, something he wants to show me. But I must promise him that I will not withhold that thing. I thought about it, like, what is it, and me not withholding it. But somehow, because it involves my father, I said, I promise. So he put his hand in his pocket, pulled out a picture, gave it to me, and I looked at. I saw my father, and you know that withheld innermost hot tears, knowing who Gabaidu is, or Tuchingele as his titles, and he said, "This is your father." 1974, when I was, is it ordinated or coronated? Ordained, yes, ordained as Catholic priest. That man, the Reverend Father Echego, is the first Abakaliki Catholic priest. So, and Ogba Ekirigbe gifted him that vehicle. And I was, please, can I reproduce? He said, yes, of course, but remember you said I said, yes, of course, I've given you my word, I'll return. And I quickly got it reproduced and sent his copy back to him. But when I sat back, I'm like, hold on. Economically, to gift somebody Beetle as at that time. And this is a Catholic priest. So my father, being a ruler, understood the fact that he was a king of a kingdom that spanned from Nkalago, in fact, let's say the entire Mbolisia as it is, but then also became a member of a representative. He became divisional representative at the parliament. So which means he was representing Nkalago, Igbesa, down to Nkaleha, Efiom, Iji, boundaries with Ogoja, down to what is called then Ezikwo, which is Ezayandikwo, or Nichi. Practically today, half of Ebonyi State.
Ebonyi State.
You know, and he was a representative, in addition to being a paramount chief, traditional ruler. And he was able to, he saw trends. There's a picture that I'll look for and show you. I think we've uploaded it on the internet. But as at 1953, a picture they took then, his wives were wearing trousers. Were wearing trousers with him.
So it was also not just
a progressive. He was a progressive. Yeah. He was a culturist. He believed in our culture and tradition. He believed that it must be preserved and kept in its clean form. And he also understands the difference between spirituality and religion. So when he knew that Westerners are here and they're here to colonize, you don't fight them. Because when you fight them with physical weapon, you're not going to succeed. Don't forget, he also married from the Ata-Igala royal family. So, and those people have also seen the share of Western influences. So what he did was, look, okay, the Westerners, he had Westerners coming to his path, Messrs. Gonin. If you go to Abai, there's a place called Gonin Street. One of the white men that also gave him his paramount chief certificate. So he knew that, look, the world is a progressive place. Culture evolves, but you must preserve your tradition. Don't change your tradition.
So let me get that again. So tradition,
yes,
it's not, it doesn't evolve at the pace at which culture
evolves.
Okay.
Culture
meets other cultures.
Culture meets other cultures, and the superior one
will always
influence the other one. For instance, today we have Nigerian music influencing the entire world. The Western, we see a Caucasian singing all these Afrobeats and flavors music and all of that. And you're like, hold on. That's called music culture influence. So culture evolves. Culture is the way we do things around here, which can also change. But tradition is ejirimaramba.
What you're known for.
What you're known for. What you're known for. Ejirima, your tradition.
And that was what gives you strength in a way.
That's what gives you identity. Inwere omenana, inwere ife Igbo. Onye nwere omenala, abụrụ mmadụ iko eko n'enu. There is a bird in our place we call Otelengbe Cave. The bird flies, hangs on the air, and keep flapping. It doesn't go up, it doesn't come down. It's not a bird of the ground, it's not a bird of the air. Or hanging in, or Igbo. So this man was able to say, okay, religion, Methodist, Catholic, no problem. Uno nodi.
So because it takes me, there's also an interesting line that I've pursued over, maybe the last 10 years in my imagination around, and I've had conversations like this around how the Igbo person, specifically, I mean most Africans, this thing of contemporaneous existence where we are sort of living in the middle of, not being fully Igbos and not being fully Western, but at the same time, and we do the same thing with religion. So Iafu, somebody in Nigeria is a knight of St. Mulumba in the church. So it's interesting how, is it something that we are good at because there's nothing we can do about it? Or
are we really good at it?
Or is it something that we've evolved?
Are we really good at it?
So where do you stand? Where would you stand? Would you say, and I like the distinctions you made. You made a very solid distinction that when it comes to culture, pack it, and culture can change, because culture can meet other cultures and can be influenced. But what the things you identify as your tradition, your traditional ways.
For instance,
give me an example of one traditional.
I'll come back and say, heaven and earth shall pass away, but not a word or the new Christian translation, not a word or a dot or a title of God's word. But that's not the real translation. It says, heaven and earth shall pass away. Shamayim, ve haaretz, heaven, and haaretz, earth, shall pass away, but not a yud. Yud in Hebrew is the least letter. You have aleph, bet, dimel, dalet. It's a yud. The smallest letter of God's word will not pass unfulfilled. You bring that into our context. You see, culture can move. Culture can evolve. But tradition should never. And even if it's going to change, it should take a long time. My take is very simple. Explore the world. Moke Gulegu say Oga landlord, travel and see. Travel out. Travel is part of education. Go around, see what is happening in the world, but keep your own identity. In fact, yesterday I was discussing with my son, my last boy. He's in Greenwich University. Osemo, London. I want to learn Igbo language. I went because Obo nam maife marketa. Onam maife marketa. Yaka say, had I known.
We both share the same.
Obo nam maife marketa.
In a sense.
Odogu. O maakamo ya asu Igbo swanya mama. Malo menana. Because that is what distinguishes you. Any child that understands Igbo culture. In fact, let me put it, any child that understands Igbo tradition and values will always be above their peers wherever they are in the world. Keep them with any tribe, any race, they will stand out because our tradition and values are rooted. One, you say, give me an example. In Igbo tradition, the man takes spiritual preeminence over his home. What does that mean? You don't allow any kind of person to come into your house. In Igbo tradition, mmadụ kwa aka na be gị, ọ gị ga-eje meghe ụzọ. Ị da-asị mama Nkechi jee meghe ụzọ. But in Western world, anybody can go and open the door. But we forget that, Father, we are spirit more than human.
Okay.
The person you're going to meet there, you don't know the degree of their spiritual sensitivity. And they can easily hypnotize your wife. When you say hypnotize, influence her. and then emechi nwebe nsogbu na asisi jebu na ekpele ọbụrụ ya. Again, in Igbo tradition, our tradition is that when somebody visits you, offer them kola. That's hospitality. I'm using preliminary this thing. But that is something you must guard diligently.
And you're right. I mean, we've just previously, we even talked about, as part of the tradition, if I just to re-echo that, because I think this is important, the way the funeral rites, the way we bury.
Exactly.
We talked about that a few minutes
That's
ago.
our tradition.
That's tradition.
That's
and
tradition.
You cannot, and
you
it has
can't change
consequences.
it. Yes. In fact, on that, let's go into marriage. You see a young girl, old girl, whatever, and say, oh, I love you, you love you, unayeba, gini edinebe, unejebilu. You're not married. And the day that woman die, well, the day you die or anything happens to you, those children doesn't belong to you. They belong to someone else's. Because you have not kept to the tradition. Obo ne kugo bride price. Ikugo wanisi wani. Nna wani polia ponyegi. That is tradition. That's tradition. If you don't do that, you're not married before God and before man. And the church, Amalugo, that's why even in Pentecostal, I gotta say, have you done your traditional marriage? The court recognized that. That's why the court will make sure it be a court marriage. I gotta say, your parents are there. Well, do they consent to it? These are tradition. Illegible is tradition. It's part of our tradition that now, if you see something that doesn't belong to you, you don't take it. It's not culture. It's a tradition. You don't take it. If you take it, make sure that you keep it where the owner will take it back. It's a tradition that you should have something you do to earn a living.
To earn a living.
It's a tradition, not culture. And that's why an average Igbo man who is an idle person has in a fulefu.
I mean, interesting. I mean, I just want to end this segment of that conversation because, Prof, you know, we can talk till tomorrow morning. You know, I sort of hinted at it before we went on the break. I was here a few weeks ago in Abakaliki at EBSU, and you were on the podium. You were speaking. I think it was the launch of the One Youth
yes.
Hub
program. Yes.
And you talked about, I mean, I'm sort of paraphrasing you now. You talked about how education, the way we educate our children now in both in high school and university, that is a scam. And I said, what did this man just say? You know, I was telling you, I thought I walked around and said, let me walk out before they start beating me, because we're in a university campus, and the professor is standing up and saying, university is a scam. I'm like, no way. They're going to start beating this man now. Let me leave this, you know. But obviously, you know, you highlighted a few points around, you know, that it's rote education. People are just, you know, cramming text, you know, to graduate, and there's not really been, you know, how would you resolve the problem of education? And because I'm sort of tying it back to the Igbo traditional system of apprenticeship, and you talked now just a minute ago about any Igbo person, especially a man, and what I call wefulefu.
Yes, yes.
You know, and,
yes.
And you know,
you see, people can say whatever they want to say. My opinion is that Igbo civilization, Igbo education, Igbo awareness of its environment and society, Igbo economic structure, governance system, political system, religious system, spirituality, and rest predates anything anywhere in the West. I say no, na kuzilo nwa, obro nwa na kuzina. And when you look at it, yes, I'm in the university system. But when things are not working, are you not supposed to look inward and find out why those things are not working?
Asị na nkụ nọ na mba na-eyelu mba nni. What works for you may not necessarily work for me. Why should I throw away my own way of life, Ive Jimalum, that has kept me and my ancestors progressively growing, and pick up your own? Check every ancient kingdoms that have existed globally. Is it the
Egyptians or the
Egyptians
Greeks
or Chinese, Qi, Jing dynasty, whatever you want to call them? Compare their own learning system